Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let me ask you a simple question. If your mind were a friend, would you enjoy its company? Most of us spend our lives listening to an inner voice that criticizes, doubts, or discourages us. But today, I invite you to try something extraordinary. Talk to yourself like a winner for just 7 days and watch how your world begins to transform. For the next 7 days, I want you to practice one powerful shift. Speak to yourself the way a champion speaks before stepping into the arena. Your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. The words you whisper to yourself determine your mindset, your energy, and ultimately your destiny. Your inner voice shapes your reality in ways far deeper than most people ever recognize. Every moment of your life, a silent conversation is taking place inside your mind, one that either elevates you or limits you. People often believe that circumstances define their success, but more often it is the meaning they give to those circumstances that decides whether they rise or fall. When you wake up in the morning and your mind whispers that you are too tired, too behind, or not good enough, you begin to act in alignment with those thoughts. But when you train your inner voice to speak with strength, clarity, and confidence, your entire perception of the world begins to shift. The reality you experience on the outside starts with the reality you construct on the inside. Your thoughts influence the way you behave, the choices you make, and the level of energy you bring into every situation. Every winner, leader, and achiever began by mastering the voice within. They understood that the internal narrative drives the external outcome. If the voice inside says you can, you will try. If it says you will fail, you will hesitate. That hesitation becomes your enemy, not the circumstances. Most people don't lose because they are incapable. They lose because their inner dialogue convinces them that they are. The mind is powerful enough to amplify fear or fuel courage, and the choice of direction depends on how you speak to yourself. When you begin to talk to yourself with encouragement, determination, and self-belief, you unlock a level of potential that was always there but never accessed. Confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from making your inner voice your ally rather than your critic. A winner's mindset is not built by chance. It is constructed deliberately through intentional self-talk. Telling yourself, I am improving, I am capable, or I can handle this may seem simple, but these small affirmations shape your emotional state, and your emotional state shapes your ability to act effectively. Your inner voice also determines how you interpret challenges. When something difficult happens, a negative inner dialogue will make you view the situation as a threat, something to fear or run from. But a strong inner voice will turn the same situation into an opportunity to grow, to learn, or to prove your resilience. This mental shift is what separates those who break under pressure from those who break through it. When your inner voice supports you, obstacles stop feeling like barriers and start feeling like stepping stones. The quality of the relationship you have with your mind is the foundation of your success. Just as you would not tolerate disrespect or constant criticism from a friend, you should never accept those patterns from your own thoughts. A winner speaks to themselves with discipline, not delusion, with optimism, not fantasy. They acknowledge their weaknesses without insulting themselves, and they celebrate progress even if it is small. Instead of saying, I always fail, they say, I'm learning. Instead of saying, this is impossible, they say, let me find a way. That shift in tone doesn't just change how you think. It changes how you feel and ultimately how you act. Your inner voice is the architect of your identity. Speak to yourself like someone worthy of success, and you begin to behave like someone capable of achieving it. Speak like a winner, and you start showing up as one. The journey to transformation begins with mastering one simple but powerful skill: talking to yourself in a way that strengthens, supports, and elevates your life. Replacing doubt with empowering truths is one of the most transformative mental shifts a person can make, yet it is also one of the most overlooked. Doubt has a subtle voice. It rarely shouts, but its whispers are strong enough to weaken even the most capable individuals. It creeps into the mind in quiet moments, questioning your potential, your worth, and your ability to move forward. When doubt becomes the dominant narrative in your thinking, you begin to underestimate yourself long before the world ever gets the chance to. The real danger is not that doubt exists, but that people often accept it as truth without challenging it. The human mind tends to magnify fears, exaggerate limitations, and overlook strengths. That is why replacing doubt requires deliberate effort and disciplined self-talk. Empowering truths are not fantasies or unrealistic compliments. They are clear, grounded statements that reinforce your capability and help you approach challenges with confidence instead of fear. When you consciously replace "I can't" with "I can learn," or "I'm not good enough" with "I'm improving every day," you begin interrupting old mental patterns that hold you back. These empowering truths shift your perspective from limitation to possibility. They remind you that growth is always within reach and that your current state does not define your future potential. Most importantly, they guide your emotions and actions in a direction that supports your success instead of sabotaging it. People often underestimate the impact of language on their mindset. The words you speak to yourself create emotional responses. Doubt-based thoughts generate anxiety, hesitation, and avoidance, while empowering truths generate courage, motivation, and resilience. The mind responds to repetition. So the more frequently you feed it negative narratives, the stronger those narratives become. But the opposite is equally true. When you consistently tell yourself empowering truths, you begin to rewire your thinking, strengthen your self-belief, and cultivate a mental environment where confidence becomes the default rather than the exception. This practice is especially important during moments of discomfort or difficulty. When life challenges you, your first instinct may be to retreat into fear-driven thoughts. But that is precisely the moment when you must speak to yourself with strength. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," tell yourself, "This is an opportunity to grow." Instead of thinking, "I might fail," shift to, "Even if I struggle, I will learn and adapt." These statements are not about pretending everything is easy. They are about acknowledging your ability to handle what comes your way. Empowering truths give you the mental stability to stay focused, composed, and proactive, even when circumstances feel overwhelming. The process of replacing doubt also involves developing self-awareness. You must learn to notice when doubt appears and consciously redirect your thoughts. This requires patience and practice because doubt often feels convincing. But every time you challenge a negative belief with an empowering truth, you weaken the hold that doubt has on you. Over time, this creates a profound change in your mindset. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, make decisions with greater clarity, and take action with greater purpose. One of the most powerful aspects of empowering truths is their ability to build emotional resilience. When you speak to yourself with encouragement and belief, you create an internal support system that remains steady even when external conditions are unpredictable. You no longer depend solely on outside validation or perfect circumstances. Instead, you generate confidence from within. This inner stability allows you to take risks, pursue opportunities, and step outside your comfort zone without being paralyzed by fear. Replacing doubt with empowering truths is a continuous journey, not a one-time exercise. But with consistent practice, you begin to shift your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone limited by fear and start seeing yourself as someone fueled by purpose, potential, and strength. Empowering truths are the mental foundation upon which winners build their lives. And once you learn to rely on them, doubt loses the power it once had over you. Treating your mind as your best friend is one of the most essential yet underappreciated practices of personal growth. Too often, people allow their minds to become harsh critics instead of supportive partners. They replay past mistakes, exaggerate flaws, and anticipate worst-case scenarios as if preparing for disaster is the only way to survive. But imagine for a moment if you spoke to an actual friend the way you sometimes speak to yourself, constantly, doubting, judging, and discouraging them. That friendship would not last long. And yet many people allow that destructive dialogue to continue within themselves for years. Shifting your mindset begins with transforming the relationship you have with your own thoughts. When you treat your mind like a best friend, you begin to speak with compassion instead of criticism. You acknowledge your imperfections without turning them into identities. You encourage growth instead of reinforcing fear. Just as a true friend lifts you when you're tired and motivates you when you're discouraged, your mind should serve that role for you. This does not mean avoiding truth or pretending everything is perfect. It means delivering truth in a supportive, constructive, and empowering way. A best friend does not say you can't do this. They say you may struggle, but I'm here with you. When your mind becomes that kind of ally, your capacity for success expands dramatically. People often mistakenly believe that harsh self-talk will push them toward better results, but research and experience both show the opposite. Constant self-criticism weakens confidence, drains motivation, and increases anxiety. It causes you to doubt your decisions, hesitate in important moments, and hold back your potential. In contrast, supportive and encouraging internal dialogue strengthens emotional stability and allows you to face challenges with clarity. Treating your mind as a best friend helps you navigate setbacks without losing belief in yourself. It helps you recover faster, learn better, and grow stronger. Another important aspect of this mindset shift is understanding that your thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. Too many people accept every negative thought as truth simply because it exists. But just as you would question an unfair or unhelpful comment from someone else, you must learn to question your own unproductive thoughts. A best friend challenges you when you're being too hard on yourself. They remind you of your strengths when you forget them. They bring perspective when you lose it. Your mind should do the same. When a negative thought arises, ask yourself, is this helping me or hurting me? If it's hurting you, replace it with a thought that supports your growth without denying reality. Treating your mind as a friend also involves boundaries. You must learn to say no to overthinking, no to unnecessary comparisons, and no to stories that undermine your confidence. A best friend protects you from harm, even when the harm comes disguised as your own worries. In the same way, you must protect your mental space from thoughts that drain your energy and distract you from your purpose. This is not about avoiding responsibility. It is about safeguarding your emotional capacity so you can show up fully in life. When you develop this healthier internal relationship, you start to notice shifts in everything you do. You respond to challenges with resilience instead of panic. You approach opportunities with openness instead of hesitation. You speak with confidence because you finally trust yourself. You begin to see your potential not as a distant possibility, but as something already within reach. Treating your mind as your best friend transforms your inner world, which in turn transforms your outer world. It allows you to stand strong even in moments of uncertainty. It gives you the courage to keep moving, the clarity to make decisions, and the compassion to forgive yourself when you fall short. When your mind becomes your ally, your journey becomes smoother, your goals feel closer, and your life becomes more grounded and empowered. Turning challenges into opportunities is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. Yet, it is a skill that requires deliberate practice and a disciplined mindset. Most people view challenges as roadblocks, moments that signal defeat, frustration, or failure. They see obstacles as signs that they should stop, withdraw, or question their abilities. But those who think and act like winners interpret challenges through a completely different lens. They understand that every difficulty carries a lesson, every setback carries a message, and every obstacle carries the potential to shape them into a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of themselves. The difference lies not in the size of the challenge, but in the attitude with which you respond to it. When you shift your perspective from fear to growth, you begin to see challenges as opportunities to elevate your skills, deepen your understanding, and strengthen your resilience. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this teaching me? How is this preparing me? How can this make me better?" This mindset breaks the cycle of negativity and empowers you to take control of your circumstances. Challenges stop feeling like threats and start feeling like stepping stones, tools that help you climb closer to your goals. It is this internal shift that separates those who crumble under pressure from those who rise above it. A powerful truth about life is that growth rarely happens in comfort. When everything is easy, predictable, and smooth, you may feel safe, but you rarely evolve. Challenges force you to think differently, act differently, and push beyond your previous capabilities. They stretch you mentally, emotionally, and sometimes even physically. These difficult moments are where character is built, where patience is strengthened, and where creativity is born. Winners do not fear challenges. They embrace them because they recognize that pressure is a catalyst for transformation. Responding to challenges with a winner's mindset also means refusing to be defined by temporary setbacks. Everyone experiences failures, disappointments, and moments of uncertainty. What matters is not the challenge itself, but the story you attach to it. If you interpret failure as proof that you are incapable, then that belief becomes your reality. But if you interpret failure as feedback, a signal pointing you toward improvement, then you convert a negative experience into a valuable opportunity. This shift in perception allows you to maintain confidence even when circumstances are difficult. You begin to trust the process, knowing that every challenge carries a hidden gift. Another important part of turning challenges into opportunities is taking personal responsibility. Instead of blaming circumstances, people, or luck, winners examine what they can control and how they can respond more effectively. They use challenges as a mirror to reflect areas that need development, whether it is discipline, patience, communication, strategy, or emotional management. This willingness to look inward creates clarity and strengthens the foundation for future success. Personal responsibility transforms challenges from barriers into teachers, and every teacher offers wisdom. It is also crucial to approach challenges with courage rather than avoidance. Avoiding difficulties only prolongs the struggle and increases anxiety. But when you face challenges directly, you gain momentum and confidence. Even small acts of courage, taking the first step, making the difficult call, attempting a new skill, begin to dissolve fear and replace it with empowerment. The more you confront, the stronger you become. Over time, challenges that once intimidated you start to feel manageable, and obstacles that once overwhelmed you become opportunities to demonstrate your growth. Turning challenges into opportunities is not about pretending that everything is easy. It is about acknowledging the difficulty while refusing to let it defeat you. It is about stepping into discomfort with the belief that something meaningful can emerge from it. It is about understanding that every challenge you face has the potential to elevate you if you allow it to. When you adopt this mindset, challenges no longer shrink your confidence. They expand your capacity. They no longer break your spirit. They build your strength. They no longer slow your progress. They accelerate your evolution. Protecting your inner dialogue for 7 days may sound simple, but its impact is profound. Most people move through life unaware of how much mental clutter they carry. Negativity, comparisons, regrets, complaints, and fears that constantly drain their energy. These thoughts accumulate quietly, and over time they begin to shape behavior, mood, and even identity. When your inner space becomes cluttered with discouraging dialogues, it becomes difficult to stay focused, positive, or confident. Protecting your inner dialogue is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing which thoughts deserve a place in your mind and which do not. It is about taking ownership of your mental environment and intentionally nurturing a mindset that supports your growth. For 7 days, imagine your mind as a room you're responsible for keeping clean. You would not allow strangers to walk in and toss garbage on the floor. Yet this is exactly what happens when you permit negative influences or self-defeating thoughts to stay unchallenged. Protecting your inner dialogue requires you to build awareness of what you allow into your mental space. Every time a thought arises, ask yourself whether it strengthens you or weakens you. If it weakens you, do not entertain it. Redirect it, replace it, or release it. This practice may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if your mind is used to operating on autopilot, but over time, it becomes a powerful form of mental discipline. During these 7 days, you begin to notice patterns, moments when you automatically criticize yourself, anticipate failure, or assume the worst. These patterns have likely developed over years, influenced by past experiences, fears, or external expectations. But the more awareness you bring to them, the more control you gain over them. Protecting your inner dialogue means refusing to let these old narratives dictate your present. Instead of allowing your thoughts to run wild, you guide them with intention, just as a leader guides a team with clarity and purpose. Another important aspect of this practice is managing external influences. The conversations you listen to, the environment you spend time in, and the people you interact with all feed your mind in some way. If you surround yourself with negativity, drama, or discouragement, it becomes much harder to maintain a strong inner dialogue. For 7 days, make a conscious effort to limit exposure to anything that drains your emotional energy. This may mean stepping back from unnecessary conflicts, minimizing time spent on social media, or reducing contact with people who constantly complain. By protecting your external environment, you strengthen your internal environment. Gratitude plays a powerful role in this process as well. Negativity often thrives in the absence of appreciation. When your mind focuses only on what is missing or what is going wrong, it becomes easy to fall into a pattern of self-pity or frustration. But when you intentionally practice gratitude, even for small things, you shift your focus to abundance rather than lack. This shift does not eliminate challenges, but it gives you emotional balance and stability. It reminds you that despite difficulties, there are still moments of joy, progress, and possibility. Gratitude becomes a shield that protects your mind from unnecessary negativity. Protecting your inner dialogue also means being selective with the stories you tell yourself. For 7 days, replace every exaggeration of fear with a realistic assessment. Replace every self-blaming thought with a constructive perspective. Replace every assumption of failure with a determination to learn. You cannot control every event in your life, but you can control the meaning you assign to it. This meaning becomes the foundation of your mindset. A protected mind interprets situations with clarity, not panic. It responds thoughtfully rather than emotionally. It stays grounded even when circumstances shift. As you practice this mental discipline consistently, you begin to experience a quiet but powerful transformation. You notice that your mood becomes more stable, your decisions become more confident, and your reactions become more measured. You start feeling more in control of yourself, not because life has become easier, but because your mind has become stronger. Protecting your inner dialogue for 7 days is not just an exercise, it is a reset. A way to reclaim your mental strength and remind yourself that your thoughts are meant to work for you, not against you. Your self-talk becomes your destiny because the words you repeat to yourself each day gradually shape the person you believe you are. And the person you believe you are determines the way you show up in life. Every belief, whether empowering or limiting, begins as a simple sentence in the mind. Over time, that sentence becomes a conviction, and that conviction guides your choices, behaviors, and outcomes. People often assume that destiny is something external, something written somewhere far beyond their control. But in truth, destiny is created internally long before it is experienced externally. It begins with the tone, quality, and consistency of your inner dialogue. When you speak to yourself with confidence, clarity, and encouragement, you establish a foundation of self-belief that influences how you approach opportunities and challenges. You begin to act with assurance because your inner voice supports you instead of doubting you. You take initiative instead of hesitating. You pursue growth instead of fearing failure. This shift in behavior may seem subtle at first, but its long-term impact is enormous. Small decisions guided by positive self-talk accumulate into major results. Conversely, if your self-talk is filled with fear, criticism, or uncertainty, you start to behave in ways that reflect those thoughts. You hold back when you should step forward. You avoid challenges that could elevate you. You underestimate your abilities and unintentionally shrink your potential. The mind is incredibly responsive to repetition. Whatever you tell yourself often enough becomes easier to believe, even if it is not true. This is why negative self-talk is so dangerous. It can convince a capable person that they are inadequate or unworthy. It can limit ambition, suppress creativity, and erode confidence. The statements, "I'm not good enough," "I can never do this," or "I always fail," slowly create a mental blueprint that guides your decisions. Once that blueprint becomes strong, it influences nearly everything: how you communicate, how you handle conflict, how you pursue goals, and even how you handle success. The tragedy is that many people live restricted lives not because they lack ability, but because they have been repeating the wrong story to themselves for too long. On the other hand, empowering self-talk builds a blueprint that supports growth. When you say, "I can learn, I can improve," or "I have the ability to figure this out," you train your mind to search for solutions instead of obstacles. You begin to see possibilities where others see limitations. You view challenges as stepping stones rather than barriers. Over time, this mindset becomes your default mode of thinking, and it influences every action you take. People who succeed consistently are not necessarily more talented than others. They simply maintain a self-dialogue that keeps them aligned with their goals rather than distracted by their fears. Another important aspect of self-talk is the emotional atmosphere it creates within you. Words have emotional weight. Positive self-talk generates emotions like confidence, motivation, and calmness. Emotions that encourage effective action. Negative self-talk generates stress, insecurity, and hesitation. Emotions that paralyze progress. When your self-talk is strong, constructive, and supportive, your emotional state becomes more stable. You are able to make clearer decisions, think more creatively, and stay resilient in difficult moments. This emotional stability plays a major role in determining your destiny, because people with emotional resilience navigate life more effectively than those who are constantly overwhelmed by inner conflict. Your self-talk also influences the identity you build over time. Identity is not fixed. It is shaped by the stories you repeatedly tell yourself. If your inner narrative is that you are strong, capable, and improving every day, then you begin to embody those qualities. You seek out environments that match your identity. You form habits that reinforce your strengths. You take actions that align with the person you believe yourself to be. Slowly, your life begins to evolve in the direction of those beliefs. Identity-driven behavior is powerful. It turns intentions into consistent patterns, and consistent patterns eventually become your destiny. Ultimately, the dialogue within your mind either expands your future or restricts it. Every dream you pursue, every challenge you overcome, and every success you build begins with a single internal conversation. When you take control of that conversation, when you choose empowering, encouraging, and forward-looking thoughts, you take control of the trajectory of your life. Your destiny is not written by chance, it is crafted by the words you feed your mind every single day. So my friends, I challenge you, talk to yourself like a winner for the next 7 days. Just 7 days. Encourage yourself. Believe in yourself. Speak with strength, purpose, and positivity. And when you do, you won't just survive life, you will rise. You will shine and you will thrive. Remember, the world listens to you only after you start listening to yourself. Thank you. Keep believing, keep growing, and keep talking to yourself like a winner.